All right, let's dive right into this explainer and cut straight through the overwhelm of the SYO-701 exam. If you're preparing for Security Plus, you know Domain 1 is completely foundational. It's the bedrock. So today, we're learning the actual language of defense so you can walk into that test completely prepared and confident. We're pulling directly from the official syllabus material today, specifically the Security Plus exam study guide and practice tests. Why? Because we're going to build you a crystal clear mental map of security controls that you can confidently take into test day. And honestly, more importantly, into your career defending real-world networks.
Here is our blueprint. We'll be mapping out 5 key areas to master Domain 1: categories, control types, exam keywords, core principles, and zero trust.
All right, starting with Section 1, Categories of Security Controls. Basically, who and what is actually doing the defending.
Now, before we even hit the specific categories, you absolutely must know this classic exam trip-up. People use these terms interchangeably all the time, but you definitely shouldn't. Safeguards, they're proactive. You put them in place to stop an event or at least reduce the likelihood of it happening. Countermeasures, on the flip side, are totally reactive. They're what you deploy to clean up the mess and reduce the impact after an incident has already gone down. You've got to keep that distinction crystal clear. So let's look at technical controls. These are your digital barriers. It's the hardware and software out there doing the heavy lifting to manage access and protect your systems. We're talking about things like firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, encryption, access control lists. It is literally the technology stepping in to protect your digital assets. Contrast all that tech with managerial controls. Think of these as the brain of your security operation. They're all about high-level policy and planning. Managerial controls rely on administrative procedures, things like background checks during hiring, data classification, and regular vulnerability assessments to steer the organization's overall security posture. It's the strategy behind the defense. Then we've got operational controls. Because, security isn't just about machines, it is heavily people-centric. Operational controls focus on those day-to-day habits that people execute to keep everything compliant. Think mandatory security awareness training, strict configuration management, and how you physically protect your media day in and day out. Rounding out the categories, we have physical controls. These are the tangible things, the stuff you can literally reach out and touch. We're talking security guards, fences, lighting, motion detectors, video cameras. Their one and only job is keeping that real-world perimeter and your actual physical facilities locked down. Moving right along to Section 2, Control Types and Functions. What do these controls actually do? So if categories tell us what a control is, control types tell us what action it actually takes. Think of this as your action list. A control can be preventative, literally stopping an attack dead in its tracks. It can be deterrent, discouraging an attacker from even trying. Detective controls, they discover unauthorized activity as it's happening. Corrective controls step in to clean up and restore systems back to normal after a breach. Compensating controls act as a backup to support your existing security, and directive controls force or encourage compliance with your policies.
All right, Section 3, Overlap and Exam Keywords. This is where we learn how to hack the test.
Here's a question I want you to ask yourself while you study. Are these control types mutually exclusive? Like, can one single tool do multiple jobs, or does a control in the real world perfectly fit into just one neat little box? Well, the answer is that context absolutely matters. Take a basic security camera. On one hand, its highly visible presence acts as a deterrent control, right? It discourages a thief from trying to break in. But if they decide to break in anyway, that exact same camera is now acting as a detective control because it's recording the whole incident for later review. It's one control with multiple overlapping functions, all depending entirely on the context of the situation. Because context is so critical, you've really got to know what to look for. Think of this table as your ultimate exam cheat sheet. The test loves using specific phrases to hint at a control type. When you see words like warning, sign, or visibility, you need to instantly think deterrent. Firewall, encryption, or authentication. Bam, that's preventive. If you see policy or standard, that points straight to directive. Monitoring or logging means detective, and backup, restore, or patching is almost always corrective. Seriously, memorize these triggers. Let's pivot over to Section 4, Core Security Principles. These are our ultimate goals. The official syllabus explicitly states you need to know this concept inside and out, non-repudiation.
Basically, it means someone cannot falsely deny an action they took because we have irrefutable proof. The classic way we achieve this is through digital signatures, which use cryptography to prove a document wasn't messed with and definitively came from the sender. It's literally the digital equivalent of a stamped, sealed, and notarized signature.
And that leads us perfectly into the accountability formula you see right here. By combining identification, meaning who someone claims to be, with authentication, proving they actually are who they say they are, and finally auditing, which is logging their actual actions, we achieve total system accountability. It's simple logic, really. You simply can't have a secure system if you don't know exactly who is doing what at all times.
Finally, Section 5, Zero Trust and Deception. Let's look at some modern defenses. Zero trust architecture completely flips how we view security by throwing out the idea of an implicit trust zone altogether. To do this, it splits the network into two distinct parts. First, you have a control plane, which uses adaptive identity and threat scope reduction to dynamically make the rules. Second, you have a data plane, which actually contains the subjects and the enforcement points that carry out those rules. Under a zero trust model, absolutely no user and no system is ever trusted automatically. But what happens when a threat actor inevitably slips through that zero trust architecture? Well, that's where we deploy deception and disruption technology. We essentially set traps. We use honeypots, which are fake servers designed to look incredibly vulnerable. We build honeynuts, which are entire fake networks. We even drop honey files and honey tokens, fake, juicy-looking data. The second an attacker touches any of this, it instantly alerts the defenders, letting us study their methods without ever risking our real assets. All right, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. Now that you have this blueprint, the real key to unlocking Domain 1, I want to leave you with this. How will you use this mental map to not just pass your exam, but to intelligently defend real-world systems? The language of defense is yours to deploy. Keep learning, keep analyzing those exam keywords, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.